Welcome back once again, all of my low carb friends, and for those of you who are here for the first time, welcome. Today I have another very quick, very easy cookie recipe for you. Today we are going to make caramel chocolate chip cookies. Yum! And if you want a printable version of this recipe, you can check out my website at janetsdelowcarbkitchen.com. You can find a printable version of this recipe and other goodies there for you. And if you're new to the channel and you want to see lots of easy, delicious, low-carb keto recipes, make sure you click that subscribe button and click the notification bell that's right next to the subscribe button. That way you can be notified every time I put out videos every Wednesday and Saturday. And if you'd like to help support the channel, make sure you scroll down in the description of the video. You'll see some affiliate links. Anytime you purchase anything using those affiliate links, a small portion of your purchase will go to me and help support the channel. So, while we do all that, let's get cooking. Preheat your oven to 375 degrees. Line 2 large baking sheets with parchment paper, then set them aside for a minute. In a large mixing bowl, combine 120 grams or around 1 cup of coconut flour, 10 grams or around 2 teaspoons of baking powder, 1 gram or around a 1/4 teaspoon of salt, 38 grams or around 3 tablespoons of the granulated sweetener of your choice. I'm using granulated monk fruit sweetener. You can use whatever granulated sweetener you want. You can also adjust this more or less depending on how sweet you want your cookies. And 38 grams or around 3 tablespoons of the brown sugar sweetener of your choice. I'm using brown monk fruit sweetener. Again, you can use whatever sweetener you want. And again, you can also adjust this more or less depending on how sweet you want your cookies. Sift the dry ingredients all together until everything is fully combined and there are no lumps in the dry ingredients. Now, just a heads up, this does make more of a softer cookie. If you are wanting a more crisp cookie, then substitute out the brown sugar sweetener for more granulated sweetener. Also, keep in mind when you are putting your sweetener in that we will be adding chocolate chips and caramel to the cookies, which does make them have a little bit more sweetness. So just keep that in mind when you're adding your sweetener, not to add too much. Add 3 large room temperature eggs to your dry ingredients. Stir the eggs into the dry ingredients until everything is fully combined and all the dry ingredients have been moistened by the eggs. And again, as I always tell you, make sure your eggs are room temperature so they stir in more smooth. Add 1 cup of butter that's been melted and cooled. Make sure it is cooled. You don't want to add hot butter. And 2 teaspoons of maple or vanilla extract, depending on what flavor you want in your cookies. I'm actually doing a mix of both maple and vanilla. It's around 8 grams if you want to weigh it in grams. And you can also change or adjust the extract according to your taste. Stir the butter and the extract in until everything is fully combined and you have a soft, slightly crumbly dough. Scrape the sides of the bowl down and push all the dough to the center of the bowl. Press the dough together until it forms a smooth ball. Then just kind of roll the ball around a little bit in your mixing bowl. This is just to make sure the texture, you want to make sure that the dough is coming together and staying together. You can also go for an extra test and take a small portion of the dough in your hand and roll it around a little bit until it forms a smooth ball. It should come together easily and you should have a smooth, soft dough ball. Use a wooden spoon and break up the dough just a little bit. Then gradually fold in up to 107 grams or around 2/3 cup of the Keto salted caramel chocolate chips of your choice. You can also use regular chocolate chips if you prefer regular chocolate chips as opposed to the salted caramel chips. Scoop the dough out around 1 tablespoon at a time and place it on your prepared baking sheets around 2 inches apart. These are coconut flour cookies, so coconut flour really doesn't rise or expand a whole lot. It rises just a tiny bit, but not very much at all. But you do want to keep some space in between your cookies so we can form the cookies a little bit. Take each dough ball and roll it into a smooth ball. Make sure your ball is smooth. You do not want any cracks. If there's cracks in the dough ball, then you run the risk of your cookies being crumbly. Flatten the tops of the cookies just a tiny bit. Then use the bottom part of a handle of a wooden spoon or your fingers and make an indentation in the center of the ball. You don't want to push all the way through the ball. You just want to make a bit of an indentation because this is where we're going to put the caramel at. Now, as you're making the indentation, the dough might crumble a little bit on you. If it does, just push it back together a little bit. And again, make sure it's nice and smooth so that your cookie doesn't crumble on you. Then cut up some Keto caramel square candies into small pieces and place one piece into each indentation of the cookie. My pieces were around 2 to 3 grams. You can make them as big or small as you want to. After you push the caramel into the indentation, then use your fingers and kind of seal the dough around the caramel. Remember to keep it smooth as possible. Once the caramel's been added and sealed in your dough, if the caramel's peeking out of the top, then take around a 1/4 teaspoon of your dough and just kind of pat it over the caramel. You're wanting to seal the caramel into the center of the cookie. Now, if you want to make this easier and don't want to deal with all the indenting of your cookie or anything like that, once you've rolled the dough scoops into smooth balls, you can just take your piece of caramel and just kind of push it down into the center of the ball and then use your hands and flatten the cookie out to your desired thickness. That's the easiest way to do it. The only reason why I do it with the indentation is because that keeps my caramel in the center of my cookie. But it's not a big deal if it's not perfectly centered. Place them in your preheated oven and bake at 375 degrees for around 10 to 12 minutes or until the cookies are lightly golden around the edges. Once the cookies are done baking, remove them from the oven. They still will be soft, but they will firm up as they cool. Allow them to cool on the pan 10 to 15 minutes or until they're firm enough to remove to a wire rack without crumbling. Once they've firmed up, transfer them to a wire rack and allow them to cool completely before eating them or before putting any topping on them. Once the cookies have cooled completely, you can eat them immediately, or you can melt some of the caramels or use a pre-made caramel sauce and drizzle a little bit more caramel over the tops of the cookies. Now, if you do this, make sure that you put a piece of parchment paper under your wire rack before you start drizzling the melted caramel. Otherwise, you will have a sticky mess on your counters. You can eat them immediately after you've added the topping, or if you're like me, I like to let them sit for a bit and allow the caramel to get a little bit harder on the outside and to soak into the cookie a little bit. If you do have any leftovers, store them in an airtight container at room temperature for up to 1 week. Eat and enjoy. And that's our recipe of the day. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did and you want to see more videos like this, make sure you click that thumbs up like button, click that subscribe button, leave me a comment if you want to. Let me know if there's any recipes that you'd like to learn how to make, and I'll do what I can to get those out there for you. And as always, keep cooking.